Good morning, guys. I'm going to go through and just start unmuting everybody. That way, if you would like to talk, you're able to, since it automatically mutes everybody. I just want it to be more of a conversation and allow that for people to speak. So if it's asking you to unmute, that's just me giving you, I guess, permission or what have you to unmute to be able to talk. So. Then, or if you would like to talk, you do have to unmute yourself from your screen as well.
Can anyone hear me?
I can. How are you?
Good morning.
Okay, so you guys know you are to do your mind play in this class.
Good morning, Jessica.
Good morning. How are you?
Okay, this is Mary Jackson from John Will Anderson.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
It's 5 ready.
It's telling me my audio cannot be detected. You can hear me, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. I'm just going to ignore that. I don't know.
They said this called phone break.
You guys have a good weekend?
Yes, we did. Yes,
They're always short.
I did. It goes too fast.
They do. They do. I agree.
I'm sitting right here in the in my class, rather.
You guys are still in full day programming, correct?
Like you be saying.
Pardon me?
You guys are still doing full day programming in Northwest Indiana, aren't you? You said you're at your club already?
Yes. We still, we're at the club, but we're here, 3 days a week for e-learning with the kids.
Okay.
At the school. And I want to ask a question about that e-learning.
Mm-hmm.
Before everybody gets on.
Yeah.
If your district is doing e-learning Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and they're doing reinforcement on Thursday and Friday, and the kids they're not in class. They're just doing reinforcements as like homework. Can that be counted as Indiana kids' homework, or does it?
No, it definitely should be. So just remember with Indiana kids, the way the grant is written, and if Lon and I personally, our goal is always to try to make what we are asking clubs to do as easy as possible and build into what the club experience should already be. So we assume that clubs, in a normal day-to-day are offering some kind of reinforcement to homework or some kind of educational activity. So when you count something towards a homework session, that can be any educational component done at the club. It does not have to be just homework. So if it's, reinforcing what they learn Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, absolutely count that towards Indiana kids. If it's just like an art, an art project where they are measuring and cutting, that too is an educational activity. So the hope is that Indiana kids, anything educational that you do at the club can and should be counted as an Indiana kids education session.
Okay.
Or homework, yeah.
But on Thursday, I know at a certain time, at the club, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, e-learning is at 3:30. But on Thursday and Friday, they're not in school at all. So can that time change on Thursday and Friday? Do we have to continue with the 3:30 one?
No, you can run Indiana Kids program, whether it's a virtual day, a virtual platform altogether, in person. There are no time restraints with Indiana Kids on when you can run programming. Other programs such, 21st Century and such, there are those time restraints. But with Indiana Kids, if you had kids coming in on a Saturday doing programming, you could count it. So with this program, it's really whatever fits within your schedule. So you don't have to wait until technically 3:30 or anything like that. No.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
Good. Hopefully I'm assuming that's what you wanted to hear.
Yes.
Awesome. But I see that it's shortly after 11. I'm expecting about 10 more, so I'm going to give it just another minute or two before we get started. But I see a lot of familiar names with us and a lot of new names too. So I am glad that you are all here. As you know, in past webinars with me, you are automatically put on mute. I've tried to go through and unmute individuals as they come in. If you would like to say something and I've not unmuted you, please feel free to raise your virtual hand or somehow get my attention as I see somebody doing now. That way you have, Tammy, you should be good to talk anyway. I have you unmuted already.
Quick question to follow up with that. Does that include if we send home like activity sheets or they have a computer program that the kids sign in and do educationally from home? If we go virtual, then that we can still.
Yeah. So flexibility is key. So if you are doing drop-off packets or if you have them logged in and doing virtual job shadow from home where you as the administrator can see that they spent X amount of time on the platform, you can absolutely count that towards an educational session. And again, you should. So with virtual, as long as somehow you can document it. So if you're dropping off like a worksheet or whatever, maybe they send you a picture of it once it's completed, or you pick it up when you drop off a new bag, or, whatever the case, as long as you can somehow verify that they completed it. Maybe they just send you an email saying, hey, here's what I liked about the activity. Here's what I learned. Just as long as you have that documentation, that way, like I said, you can kind of show and know that they completed that activity, even though you weren't there to witness it. That is absolutely okay.
Perfect.
So again, thank you for everybody being here. What about lessons on e-learning days? Yeah, I would say, if it's an e-learning day and you are helping the kids as they are tuned into a live Google instruction from a teacher, I would not count that because you are just there kind of enhancing the education that they are already receiving from the school in that virtual environment. But if you, if the kid is doing virtual and that just means they're expected to log in at some point throughout the day and get assignments done on their own time, and you are sitting there actually helping them do it just like you would with a homework packet or what have you, then absolutely that should be counted as a learning session for Indiana Kids. Non-live events for school like homework. Yeah, if you're if somebody is sitting there, tutoring that kid or helping that kid with an educational activity, then it should definitely be counted. So awesome. It's kind of scary to think where we're going. I know there are still a lot of clubs doing virtual programming. There are a lot now getting ready to transition to virtual programming, and then there are some that have been doing virtual programming and now are transitioning to the live method. So it's been a challenge keeping up with what everybody's doing. It's also been very humbling to see what everybody's doing because I guess where there's a will, there's a way. And it's nice to see that Club Scout Indiana are still able to fulfill that need, even though it looks completely different and unfamiliar than what it has in the past. So kudos to all of you for spending and, figuring out the way to enhance their education experience during these weird times. So I assume that most of you are on this particular webinar not to hear my voice because you missed me, but simply because we understand Indiana Kids in general, we understand the program. We are all thankful that the program's still around for another year to have the opportunity to learn more about it. But maybe you're just looking for more guidance on each of the program components and how to relate that into the billing system. So that's what I'm going to spend some time doing today. Again, at any time, I want it to be an open format. So speak up, use the chat box, raise your hand, whatever you've got to do. to help engage the conversation and ask questions, because that's what we're here for, is because you guys asked for this information in a training format. So at any time, please stop me and seek the clarification or add an input or suggestions or best practices as you see fit. So as you can see on your screen, Indiana Kids has been around since 2003, and it's continued to grow and grow and grow. This year was the first year in about 7 years that we've actually seen a decrease in funding, and you guys are all familiar with that. So we thought for sure the program would not be around this year, and it is at a cut cost, of course. So we have had to remove quite a few of the components that we have used to enhance the program over the last couple of years. So as we're going through, I'm sure you're already familiar, but you'll see that some of the components that we are familiar with are no longer part of the program. So just please be aware of that. Ruben, I'm confused. Could you clarify after the? Yeah, I'll be in touch, Ruben. I'll reach out to you. So we had a third-party evaluation done for Indiana Kids programming that went back all the way from 2007. And the results on your screen are the results from that third-party evaluation. And I just wanted you to see the impact of the program and general statistics, because it's always helpful to see the need and to see who we are serving within the program. More importantly, at the bottom, you'll see that actual performances at post-test for the homework portion of the program has a 56% average increase in reading and a 60% average increase in math from data from 2007 to 2018. So with that, you can see that consistently over the years, the program has continued to increase reading and math average scores at the end of 30 homework sessions. So again, kudos to you guys. I think that's awesome. First off with the program, more so this year, I think it's going to be important to really identify the youth that you want to participate in the program. Funding has been cut for this grant year. Therefore, we have capped slots that sites can use for Indiana Kids. You've always had an allotment at your site, whether it's 35 slots or whatever, depending on your organization. But we've always had leftover funding at the end where we've been able to pay out for anybody extra that you enrolled in the program. This year, I highly doubt there will be any extra funds to pay anybody extra for anything they do. So just be aware, you don't want to have 35 allotments and enroll 300 kids because it's just going to be difficult for you to track what's actually being paid for and what's actually not through the program. So just be mindful of who you are enrolling to participate in the program and who you think will really benefit from participation in the program. After you identify that individual, you will collect the intake, and the intake must be filled out completely. Somebody in the organization will sign the intake, and when you sign the intake, that's usually saying that you've reviewed the intake, you're not missing any information, and that you have uploaded it into the billing system, and you're signing off saying that this kiddo is ready to begin the Indiana Kids program. So make sure you are always signing off on the intake, because that means that you have reviewed it and everybody's ready to go. So remember, no service can begin until after the intake has been signed. So if the intake is signed on 10/1, your pre-test cannot be dated prior to that. When we start doing guest entries again this year, that is usually one of the most common issues that we see. The intake will be dated for a certain day, but the pre-test is given prior to the intake. So just remember, you are not allowed to administer any of the components of the program until you have a signed intake from the parent stating that you have permission to do that. Once you get the intake and it's been reviewed, make sure you enter it into the billing system and then send us the test. So most of you should know how to enroll a youth into the program or into the billing system. There are step-by-step instructions on the screen currently. I will, of course, email the PowerPoint out to everybody so they have it. And I can also walk you through the website live. So I think the best approach will be to kind of go through the slides, and then if you want an overview or a walkthrough of the website live or the billing system live, then we can go to it then instead of jumping back and forth, unless anybody prefers to do it a different way. So once you go to the website, you'll come across the landing page, as you can see on your screen. And then now you have a quick search. So that's usually where it's getting people confused when they are trying to find youth that were archived in the system from the years previously. So if you just type in Jessica McKinley in the quick search bar, you will not find me archived in the years past or in the system from years previously. In order to do that, as you can see, we're laid out on your screen. If you click on client, a drop-down box will pop up. This is add new enrollment, and that's where you will go if you are adding a brand new intake or if you were looking for an archived student. So once you type in Jessica McKinley, if I'm a brand new student, you will continue and enter the rest of the intake. If I am an archived student from in the program in the previous year, I will show up Jessica McKinley, and it will say, it'll have like a red archived below my name. And then you'll just simply click on my name and you will update the grade and then any of the other information that's changed. And that kiddo is now enrolled in the new year. We ask that you do that. You always look for an archived kid instead of enrolling them brand new every year. A, that helps us with data. It makes our data a lot cleaner, but it also helps keep an unduplicated count that is obviously more accurate than me saying that there were 7 different Jessica McKinleys in the program. It's easier to say that Jessica McKinley was in the program and has been in the program for 7 years. That's great data to have. So always find the child in the archive and renew them instead of adding them new. The pre-test assessment, I'm sure you guys are rolling your eyes again like I always do. Every time we say that we're getting the test to go online, it still hasn't happened. I'm not really sure the holdup, but we are still waiting on that test to be an online portion, being able to test using the math and reading and all the surveys that we do online. So currently they're still all hard copies. So as you can see on screen, pre-test assessment, every kid has to take the math and reading pre-test. That is the way the system triggers them as an active participant in the system. So even if they are only doing careers or volunteers or one of the SMART programs, they still have to take that math and reading pre-test. Everybody takes the math and reading pre-test. The system does not activate any billing unless that math and reading pre-test has been taken. A lot of times the confusion comes in is because now when the kid has done career sessions or has completed their volunteer test, you do not post-test the math, and you do not use the math and reading post-test for any component in the Indiana Kids program other than the 30 homework sessions. So even though everybody requires the pre-test, you will only administer the post-test if they complete the homework portion of the program. Make sure that you are using the correct pre-test. It is a common error that is made way too often where youth are given the wrong test. And then, you know, because it's really hard to track stuff, they were given version B for the pre-test and for the post-test, and they didn't see the improvement necessary. So make sure you're always given version A for the pre-test and version B for the post-test. It's important that they are given in that copy. The tests have not been updated this year. They have remained the same. It is like Woodcock-Johnson is a notably test that is used in psychology. And we actually aren't allowed to change the test. There are some questions that are tricky, you know, such as milk being pink. It should, you know, yeah, strawberry milk is pink. So questions like that I always feel like are tricks, if you will, for the kids. But we aren't actually allowed to change or modify the test. So the questions are just kind of what they are. So they have not changed at all. And then lastly, just please make sure you're submitting your pre-test. It is just mind-blowing to me how many times it will be July and we are entering data and people are sending pre-tests from October. Like, it just makes me shake my head. It makes me wonder why you're ordering tests at your clubs. Like, why aren't you sending them to me? So we always say best practice in a world that we try hard to enforce is within 30 days of whatever being done for a billings component through the program, make sure you submit it. So when your pre-tests are ready, go ahead and submit them. You do not have to wait until the due date to submit your data either. I think there's a big misconception of, I can't submit my data until the 5th because that's when it's due. If you complete 30 tests today and you're ready, go ahead and send us 30 tests to us. That way, Erica, the one that enters all of our tests, you can start working on them then, because it's always quite a challenge when you wait until the 5th and then there are, 5,000 tests that need to be entered all at once rather than being submitted when they were done. So just keep that in mind. Be mindful. If you have AmeriCorps members serving at your club in education, they can score the test, and then you can just send a spreadsheet with the test scores and such to us instead of having to scan in all the tests. So if that's not something you currently do and that's something you're interested in doing, just reach out to me. And it's also vital to note that kiddos should only be allotted the time stated on the test. So most of them are 3 minutes. All tests are 3 minutes with the exception of the math calculation test that is 10 minutes long. It is not in anybody's benefit if you give a child longer than the 3 minutes that is allotted. It's always a head scratcher, if you will, when I receive a test for first graders and almost every first grader completed the entire test. And it's just like, there's no way that's possible. So remember, you only receive payment for the post-test if it's a billable post-test, meaning that child made improvement. So again, it does you no good to give a child longer than the time allotted on the test. So just be aware of that. Be very aware of that. And it's also worth noting that if a kid circles yes, no, all through the first and second stage, clearly they're guessing. There's a pattern there. And we're not going to grade it because that's not going to give you an accurate representation of that kid's grade level. So if it is clearly yes, no circle patterns, then usually it's just a 0 because, I mean, that's the effort that was put into that test. So just be mindful of those things when you are looking over the test before sending them in to us and making sure that the names are legible. It's always fun game to play back and forth with Erica or others trying to figure out what that name might be. So just ensure that the handwriting is legible, that the first and the last name matches that in the system. I don't know that William Slavin is actually Hank Slavin in the system. So just be aware of those things and make sure that, if you are using nicknames or what have you, that's noted on the test. And then finally, I think it's important to also note that if a lot of times kindergartners aren't necessarily reading. So I think there's nothing more intimidating than putting a child in front of a test that's clearly above and beyond them and telling them to sit there for 3 minutes and stare at it. So if you know that the child's not reading, or if you know that even, after a minute or two, they just look defeated, don't make them continue to do that. If you are able to tell that a child is tapped out, the test is done, mark it as a non-reader, just, again, be mindful. The flow chart, it's really hard to see on here. I know that, but I'm going to tell you every time, always refer to the flow chart. It is a great resource to have in your back pocket. I have it printed off. I still refer to it often. So if in doubt, always refer to the flow chart. Homework 1, just as it said, after you pre-test the youth, they will complete homework sessions. And I've always fought with the label homework sessions because it's not homework, it's education sessions. So again, I mentioned earlier, whether it be an art project or maybe it's like photography class or journalism where they're making a club newsletter, all of that is education. Maybe they're in the computer lab and they're coding. Again, that's education. So that should be counted towards a homework session. It always makes me sad when I have a discussion with an individual and they're, I can't get kids to come in and do homework. I can't do it. And it's like, well, they don't have to be in the homework realm for it to count as an educational session. In fact, if you think about the Boys and Girls Club experience, in the normal every day-to-day life, a lot of times kids don't have homework. I have a 3rd grader and 11th grader. Before we went virtual, it's like, why don't you have homework? Like, we always had homework growing up. So I know that homework's not always something that's available for kiddos to have. So I tell clubs to get creative. It doesn't have to be in the homework room. It can go outside of just homework, and it should go outside of homework. That's clubs that are most successful with Indiana kids. It's because it is done as a club-wide experience and not just in the education room. Once a kid completes 15 homework sessions across a minimum of 24 days, you can enter billing into the system, meaning that your first billing point has been triggered. The 15 homework, the homework log, first 15 sessions have been completed. The homework log will ask you, have you entered billing into the system? And you will say yes once you did. You go into the system and you enter homework dates, and then the club receives $50 for every homework 1 session. And then for homework 2, same thing, except for it's session 16 through 30. And then when they complete that, you receive $100 per individual. So you have a kiddo that has completed homework 1 and homework 2, 30 homework sessions. You've received $150 through the program for helping them complete 30 educational sessions. I know some don't agree, but I find the new billing system so much easier to navigate. I call it a smart system, if you will, in the sense that it will not allow you to add dates into the service tab that you see on your screen unless you have met that 24-day requirement. So before, as you know, the system, you could put in a date range that was only 3 days, and it would allow you to do that. So when we upgraded our systems, my big request was make it smart. If they can't, if it's not meeting the rules and logistics of the program, don't allow them to enter it. And I think that alone has helped our desk reviews and other processes tremendously, because there aren't as many errors as there used to be within the program. So when you complete homework session 1, homework session 2, you just go to the add tab, and that add tab would not be lit up if I had not had a pretest entered. So tabs don't enter or light up or allow you to enter billing unless you have entered that pretest. So that's why I said that pretest has to be done for everybody, regardless of what they do. So you can see that a pretest score has been entered. So now homework 1 lights up, you hit add, and that's what pulls up here. You would enter the date of the first homework session and a date of the last homework session based off of that homework log. When we do our desk reviews, what we'll look at is we'll ask for the copy of that homework log. And if you say the homework session 1 was on 10/2, we go online to make sure that your start date says 10/2. So good. Another good way to just make sure that you're across aligning and making sure your dates are accurate. So you'll enter the date of the first session, the date of the last session, you hit save, and the billing is triggered, and you get paid for that component. Really simple. Same with homework 2. It's not lit up now, obviously, because homework 1's not been entered. But if you were entering college and career, volunteer, or smart kids, that is the same concept. I'm just kidding, not volunteer. Smart kids in college and career, that's the same concept where you go in and enter billing yourself based off of the dates in the log. Volunteer service is a little different, and that's simply because there is a pre-survey and a post-survey that is tied to the volunteer component, and you send those to us, and Erica enters those scores into the billing system. When she enters that post-test, it will automatically trigger the volunteer, just like the post-test for homework sessions. Oh, there's a bigger picture. That would have been helpful to have on the screen the whole time I was talking. The post-test assessment, upon completion of the 30 homework sessions, again, that is the only time you'll give the post-test. Upon completion of the 30 homework sessions within a minimum of an 8-week period, you will administer the post-test. Again, that is why it's important to make sure that you gave pre-test A and now you're given post-test B. And as long as the youth makes a 15% increase in either math or reading, it is a billable post-test, and you will receive $100 for that completion of the post-test. Once the test scores have been posted online, you're required to print the score report and place a copy in the youth file. So as you will see, this is a pre-test example, unfortunately, on your screen. When I was playing around in the billing system, nobody's completed a post-test yet, so I couldn't get a print off of what the actual post-test would look like, and I don't have access to last year's system. So pretend this is a post-test on your screen, and pretend right here where it says improvement, and right now it says NA, pretend, here, we'll go to the next screen, pretend that that's an actual increased percentage. So in order to be a billable post-test, this NA would have to be at least 15% in either math or reading. If they are less than 15%, that is when a kid would qualify for the bonus homework sessions 31 through 45. So if the post-test is not billable, therefore the kid did not make a 15% increase improvement in either math or reading, that kid is now eligible for bonus homework sessions 31 through 45. After the completion of those 31 to 45 sessions, 15 additional sessions, the youth can take the post-test again and try to make a billable post-test at that point. If it is a billable post-test at that point, it's a billable post-test and you receive that $100 for the post-test. If on their second attempt they still do not reach a billable post-test, you're just done with them. They don't get, there's not that third opportunity. So it's important to be aware of that. I always ask in bed clubs, if you are giving a second post-test on that test, just before you send it in to us or before you send us the scores, whatever, let us know that that is a repost. Because if not, sometimes we'll question it, or make sure that you are adding those bonus homework scores into the system. So even though you don't get paid for completing homework 3, we cannot enter that second post-test until that homework 3 dates have been entered into the system, therefore letting us know that, hey, this is another attempt to make that a billable post-test. No, career sessions will still be billed the way they always have been, and I'll get to that in just a minute. I was reading questions in the chat. So this was the bonus homework sessions that I talked about. Again, after the post-test, if it's not billable, they can complete those bonus homework sessions and then take a post-test again. So career exploration, 10 career sessions, not less than 5 weeks. Therefore, you cannot do more than 2 career sessions in any given week. We ask that career sessions are at least 45 minutes in length and always have backup documentation, if you will. And what that means is we want to have some kind of record in the kiddo's file that they completed a career session. So if they are completing like their first resume, just put a copy of that resume in their file. If they are doing, a younger kid might do like a career word search and then draw a picture of what their first job looks like. And maybe they want to take it home and show mom and dad, but just make a copy of that and put it in their file folder. If you are using Virtual Job Shadow, you can go online and just print off the kiddo's record showing that they completed it. There are forms on Dropbox if you don't want to get creative, and they're based on different grade levels. Just asking kiddos, like, what career did you learn about today? Draw a picture of your career. Would you want to do this career when you grow up? And then, you know, of course, as the grade levels advance, the questions are a little more in depth, like what qualifications do you need for this career? So just some kind of feedback for that career is what is required. So remember, career sessions can be anything from, you know, guest speakers to field trips, which I know are kind of weird right now, to Virtual Job Shadow, to online resources. There, you know, are so many virtual resources right now. You can take a virtual online college tour. You can, like I said, do a mock interview, do a mock resume, have a job fair virtually. There's so many options. Get creative. But again, the overall goal is to teach the individual about the different variety of careers that are available to them. You know, it's not just being a doctor and being a lawyer or what have you. Introducing them to all the career options, whether it be trade school, you know, full-time college, whatever. Just having that conversation based on grade level and allowing that youth the opportunity to explore their career. Workforce development is a portion of the program that we've had the last 2 years that we had to remove this year due to the budget that we received from the state this year. So we are no longer doing the workforce development portion of Indiana Kids. However, we know that a lot of you enjoy doing these sessions, and sometimes, you know, careers are great, but what else can we do? So all the programs you can see on your screen that are still in Dropbox, whether it's, you know, diplomas to degrees, the ultimate journey, goals for graduation, any of those programs you can still implement at your club and pick apart. Maybe you just want to do lesson 2 of goals for growth because you really like that lesson. Any of that can be considered a career session. So even though we don't have that workforce development component this year, we didn't want to necessarily take that completely away. So you can still do these components, but you will just do it and bill it under career. I always like to show this. It's a sample career log that has a great variety of sessions. Our friends in Michigan City made this many years ago for me. And Karen always has done a great job at offering a variety of ways for kids to learn. So if you see on your screen, it's not just, you know, YouTube videos every day. There's a lot of different variety that is in these career sessions. Ruben, I think this will answer your question that you sent. So as you know, for workforce development last year, we required that attitude towards school or attitude towards employment survey, and we collected really good data with those. Erica enters them day in and day night on SurveyMonkey for us, and we collect a lot of good data on that. That's really good information to go to the governor or go to any grant funder and be like, you know, look, there's this big push for workforce development, and this is what we are achieving as, sorry, Nicole, this is what we are achieving as a grant, as an organization, as a community. So we didn't want to lose that data that we were collecting. So now we are saying that part of the career format for Indiana Kids will be that youth will take that attitude towards school survey as part of career sessions. So just like you have that volunteer pre and post survey, now think about it, you have a career pre and post survey. Bear with me in the sense that the attitude towards school survey is required for everybody. The attitude towards employment survey, of course, is only for high schoolers, 9th through 12th grade. Or if you want to collect that data at the club level, you can still send it in. We'll enter them and collect that data as well. If you think, you know, hey, I'd really like my 7th and 8th graders to take this because we're focusing on junior achievement. I'm not saying that younger kids can't take that attitude towards employment survey, but it's really geared towards, like, you know, I feel like I'm ready to enter the workforce. And the younger kiddos probably don't have the knowledge to fill those things right now, and we don't want them to feel pressured like they should. So Nicole's question earlier was the billing system for volunteer survey. The billing system is triggered when we enter the surveys on our end. Now that there is a career survey, will billing be the same as the volunteer where it triggers on our end? And the answer is no. You would, like always have in years past, clubs will be required to still go in and enter the billing for the career sessions, but don't enter the billing to the career sessions until you have said, okay, well, part of our billing this month is going to be sending those surveys to JESTA so that they can get entered. So make sure that you just have it on your radar that those are required surveys right now, even though the billing system doesn't quite reflect that. Those surveys are available online via SurveyMonkey, and I know a lot of you have been using them, and that is so greatly appreciated. For one, we're, you know, less paper that we are exchanging back and forth, killing less trees, but also it prevents us from having to enter them into, it prevents Erica from having to enter them into the billing system or into SurveyMonkey. So best practice, just have you take the surveys on SurveyMonkey. The data's already there, clean. There's no mistakes in data entry. But we know that, you know, not everybody has that availability. So if you have to do it on paper, you definitely can. Just make sure that you're submitting those to us just like you do other surveys. So the link can be found on Dropbox to do the digital test. And once you pull up that link, you can save that link. They don't change. So that pre and post link is going to be the same all year round. So you don't always have to go to Dropbox to find that. You can, keep it handy wherever. We, as an organization, I think it's worth noting, are in the process of putting all of our links and important forms on our website. So instead of having to go to Dropbox and find the link to X, Y, or Z, but first you have to either dig in your email, go to your desktop, or email Jessica and say, hey, what's the Dropbox link for this? We are in the process of transferring everything to www.indianabgc.org. You can go to our website now. It's great. But not all the forms are there. We're slowly working with AmeriCorps, and then our next move will be Indiana Kids. So by the end of this calendar year, by January 1st, it is our goal to have all of our forms and links on our website. That way it's not always, oh, we'll go to Dropbox. Therefore, you can just have kids go to indianabgc.org and find the surveys and stuff a lot easier than we can now. So just be patient with us. We do realize that having everything on Dropbox isn't the greatest, and it's something that we are actively working on. So volunteer service, again, there is that youth survey that will be completed pre and post. That's how billing is triggered. 20 sessions, so it's really similar to career, except for, career's 10 sessions, volunteers 20. And we say in no less than 5 weeks, 45 minutes in length. And when I was working with Lana and we were trying to figure out what cuts to make to this program, I love the volunteer component. The volunteer component is actually one that I told Lana that I felt we should get rid of, simply because I feel like it is the most easy component that I've seen clubs take advantage of, in the sense that it is really an opportunity to teach youth the importance of volunteering, why they should volunteer, what the impact of volunteering is, and then more so all the different ways they can volunteer. Kids know that, yeah, I can help out at the snack shack, I can do this, but let's teach them the value of volunteerism. And I think more so than ever, how cool it would be if kids grew up knowing how to volunteer, knowing why it was important for them to volunteer, and knowing the different ways that they can volunteer in their club and in their community, and then what it benefits to themselves of volunteering. So when you are doing volunteer sessions, I implore you to make sure that you are intentionally and mindfully offering youth the opportunity to engage their learning and their interest in volunteerism. So get creative, have fun, but make sure that you are doing the 10 in and 10 out. And I know that's always a question that is a hard one for clubs, and I try to make it as simple as possible, stating that you shouldn't do 20 volunteer sessions that all take place within the Boys and Girls Club. It's great that they are learning to volunteer, but let's teach them and give them ways to volunteer outside of the Boys and Girls Club. So you can do 10 hours of in-house activities, and also do 10 hours of out-of-house activities without ever leaving the club. And what I mean by that is, let's look at this real quick. So again, I believe this was from Michigan City. Karen did a great job with this one. And as you can see, the people on the side, that means that it's actually considered an outside activity. Wrote a thank you letter to a past pager for something they taught or helped them with. They never left the club to do that, but it was a way to volunteer that was outside of their club. Again, write a soldier a note, created a cheer you up placement for Mills and Wills. Because that impact was going to be seen outside of the club, that is considered an outdoor or an outside activity. Write a letter to the mayor about issues that pertain to their community. Again, that's a great way to teach them that volunteerism isn't always about just doing. It's about making your voice be heard, about being present, about having an idea, the collaboration of a community together. So make sure that what you are doing is intentional. And I think that is when a kiddo is going to learn the most. Does cleaning time brainstorming sessions count towards volunteer service time, like for Torch Club Keystone? Absolutely. We know that Torch Club and Keystone are big components of what you do at the club. And like we said, we always try to build what we ask of you to fit into what you're already doing. So do we want to see 10 Keystone sessions for your volunteer dogs? No, not necessarily. But is it okay to recognize that Keystone is a way to teach the kids about volunteerism and using some of the different activities for the session? Absolutely, because we know that a Keystone member may, volunteer at the animal shelter this week, and next week they're, packing up food for Meals on Wheels, and all of that should be counted as volunteer activities. Absolutely. Any questions on volunteer? All right, smart move. Nothing's changed here, with the exception that we added in the Smart Moves Emotional Wellness and the Teen Expansion Pack. If you have not looked at it, they are free on .net. I have downloaded the PDF files to Dropbox for convenience for everybody. I have loaded them in the Indiana Kids Dropbox main folder, and then again in the Smart Moves folder. Really good curriculum. I don't know if you've taken the time to review any of it, but I think more so now, emotional wellness is important because, we are 9 months into a pandemic and things are weird, and how do we discuss that? How do we talk about that? How do we bring that awareness to our youth that it's okay to not necessarily understand how you're feeling right now? So Boys and Girls did a great job at putting together this emotional wellness packet. And even though there's not a billing component for the emotional wellness component, you can use the emotional wellness curriculum and just bill it under the appropriate age group. So if you're doing 6 to 8 year old emotional wellness, you can't bill it under emotional wellness because we didn't get a new billing component added to the grant this year. But you can bill it under Smart Kids, but all the activities would be the emotional wellness component. This is neat simply because, as clubs, we usually implement Smart Moves some way, some format within our club. And if you have a 3rd or 4th year repeating member who has already done Start Smart last year, but they're still in that age group where they're going to do Start Smart again this year, maybe that'd be a good way to add in that emotional wellness component to where it's not just repetitive programming. So I challenge you each to explore that social emotional wellness pack that is on Dropbox or that can be found on .net. When the youth complete the Smart Move sessions, that is $75 per individual that completes them. And just like homework and career and volunteer, there's a log that you'll complete stating that they have completed each component of the curriculum and that they are ready to be billed for. So it's noted that Passport to Manhood and Smart Girls is not part of the Indiana Kids program. They both fall under the Smart Decisions grant that the Alliance oversees as well. Still, usually for those that are new, I will get logs that are for Passport or Smart Girls, and it breaks my heart. Oh, you did all of that, and that's not part of this program. So just make sure that you are aware that the SMART programming is the Smart Kids, Start Smart or Stay Smart, or that emotional wellness part, not Smart Girls or Passport to Manhood. Again, the testing is available online via SurveyMonkey. It's so much easier and cleaner if students or if kiddos do the test online. We know that's not always possible, but if it is possible, please encourage that. Also, the links can be found on Dropbox. Does anybody have any questions about any of the billing components up to this point? If they're too easy, it's because it's Monday, right? All right. So those are the billing components of the program. Now, when we do our desk reviews, it is so much easier for you guys if you do what I'm about to tell you to do. So starting December, those of you that have been around, you know that we do desk reviews. We laid off from March through the end of last year, just due to things being weird. Everybody had enough that they were dealing with where we weren't going to come in and say, we're going to audit your program. However, the state does require us to do desk reviews monthly on the billing that we submit to the state for payment. So starting in December, we will complete our monthly desk reviews again. And for those of you that don't know, what we do is if there are 300 billing components submitted for this month, we just take usually 3% of the billing that has been submitted, and we put it, whatever that number is. So if we're reviewing 30 files this week or this month, we will put a random number generator together, and it will tell us what billing number to audit. And then we tie that to the club. So when we pull billing with all 100 names or whatever, it doesn't give us club names so much. It just gives us like kids' name, and then they submitted billing for B1, which is homework 1. So when we do our random generator number and it tells us to audit 36, so whatever the 36 line is on our spreadsheet, that's how we determine who's being audited. And then what happens is Erica will reach out to you and say, hey, Tammy, sorry, I keep picking on you, Tammy, you're just highlighted on my screen. Hey, Tammy, we are going, we're completing our monthly audit and we want to review these 5 files. And then what we do is we ask for a copy of the kids' files. So we want to see a copy of that intake. We want to see the pre-test scores, which, as you can see on the screen, there's a print button that you first print, and it prints the pre-test score, telling you the date they took the test, what they scored. And if you claimed B1, homework 1, we are going to ask for the homework log to make sure that the 15 homework sessions you completed are well detailed, they're dated, the staff have signed, the kids have initialed, that you have completed your end of the billing. So what we paid you for, what the state paid you for, was accurate, and that billing submission has been reviewed. So we never like to say it's an audit, but usually when you say audit, that's when clubs are like, oh, I know what we're going to do. So it is best when we say, hey, this is the information we would like to see. It's easier for clubs if they just go to the kid's file. Every kid, it's required that every kid has a file. So in a file, however you do it, you are going to have the kid's intake form signed and dated. You'll have a copy of the pre-test scores, all the attendance logs for each of the components, any of the follow-up worksheets like we talked about for career, and then copy of the post-test or the scores if they have gotten that far, depending on what we're asking for review. On Dropbox, you'll see a copy of what we call the case file summary, which is here on your screen. This is kind of small to see. But when we do our desk reviews, we use this form and we say, okay, is the intake form signed by the parents and staff? Yep. What was the date? Okay. Are the pre-test copies in here? Yep. You can just see that we go through this check form and we mark it. So when we do a desk review, as long as you have completed everything that's on this form, you're good to go. So what a lot of clubs will do when they make a file for a kiddo, they will staple this on that file folder or whatever. So as they are submitting billing, they can use our audit checklist, if you will, to make sure that they are doing everything by the book, by the rules. So if you've not ever paid attention to this case summary file, as we call it, I suggest that you do, because like I said, when we do our desk reviews, it's just easier. And like I said, the state requires us. We report to the state quarterly, and every quarter we have to report how many billing components were submitted and then how many we reviewed and how many issues there were. So I don't think I can get by with saying 0 anymore, because we've been doing that a lot because of COVID. But now, like I said, come December, we're going to start doing those desk reviews again. So just be prepared. The monthly report submission, we ask every month that you submit the form that you see on your screen, also found in Dropbox. And we only do this as a guideline. So let me make that very clear. You are not paid based off of what you submit on this summary. And I think that's where a lot of the misassumption is. You will say, oh, I submitted this summary and it said I should get $2,000 and I only got $1,800. What happened? Well, usually because there's something missing, something's wrong, there's an error. So let me make it clear that we will only pay clubs. We submit billing based off of what's in the billing system, not what's on this. This is just a comparison. I don't know if you've seen the reports that every quarter Lana sends out reports to the executive directors saying, this is how many homework ones that have been submitted. This is, you know, for your club, what have you. And at the end, there's a column that says club requested amount and then actual paid amount. And there's often a difference. The club submitted this, so they were paid for this. The biggest issue is often the post-test isn't billable. You are claiming that $100 for a post-test, but they actually didn't meet that improvement. So even though you submitted a post-test that month, it wasn't a billable post-test. Or common error is the fact that we tell you billing is due by the 5th of every month. It takes Erica and I probably a good 5 to 6 days, depending on, you know, depending on what is submitted. It takes us a couple days to actually get everything graded, get everything entered into the system, tell Lana to pull billing, her review it, submit the billing, and then actually, you know, pull it down for payment. So when you guys submit it to us, there's still a 5 or 6 day turnaround for us to do what we need to do. You submit to billing on the 5th, you submit this monthly summary on the 5th, and then say on the 7th, you go in and enter 3 more homework sessions. We actually haven't submitted billing yet for the previous month. So that billing that you submitted after the 5th will actually still be on that fall or on that previous month submission. So we always say best practice, you submit billing on the 5th, stay out of the system until the 10th. Give us 5 days to get everything cleaned up, turned around, and pulled before you go back in. You can always tell what billing was submitted based off of the matrix, not off your monthly summary, but based off of the matrix. You go to the matrix, you can see a list of everybody in the program, and then there'll be a dollar sign. I'm saying this wrong. It'll be noted the date that the billing was pulled down. There'll be a dollar sign if it's pending billing. So the matrix is a good reference. Any questions? I want to be aware of our time. I know we only have a few minutes left. I'm here as long as you need me to be, but I know that several of you have other commitments that you need to go to. So on your screen, I won't go over it too much. If you have anything you would like to add or contribute to this list, I would be grateful to hear that. But these are questions that are often asked from clubs, and good input from other clubs on how to track things, how to do things, best practices within the club. Common error and mistakes, again, when we do our monthly reviews, we'll start seeing more of this, but make sure that intake is signed and dated, please. Pre and post test must be legible. Youth can participate in various components at once. That has been a big misconception through the years. If I have Erica doing homework sessions, Erica can do homework sessions and career sessions and volunteer sessions. It doesn't have to be, well, Erica's doing homework, and when she's done with career or done with all of her homework, we're going to move to career. And then when she's done with career, we'll move to volunteer. If that's what you want to do, great, but you can participate in as many components at once as the club sees necessary. Career logs must include that supporting documentation, the volunteer attendance and out, and then attendance logs. Don't be generic. Don't write math. If they completed a math worksheet, I need to see more than math. So just make sure, math, multiplying by 3, math, long division. Just give us some detail. Give us that grit of what they're doing. And then make sure that there are those 24 days. Again, it's easy to not have that issue anymore simply because the system's smart enough to not allow it. But that used to be a huge issue. Make sure there's always that 24 days. And then volunteer youth survey should only be submitted once 20 hours have been completed. Make sure you hear what I'm saying right now, because so often most clubs will complete their math and reading pretest and include the volunteer pretest with that, just that way you get them all done at once. The kids sit down, they're doing all the tests. So when they go and do the post-test, they assume they'll do that volunteer survey then as well. We will enter it into the billing system because you sent it to us. We're going to enter it. And then what happens is you're like, oh, I just got paid for 20 volunteer sessions and we haven't completed any. Well, you were paid for them because you submitted that post-test. Therefore, to us, that means you completed them. So remember that volunteer survey is only done once they've completed the 20 sessions, not once you complete the math and reading post-test. you were on our last call, you heard us say many times that the Indiana Kids funding is in jeopardy more so this year than any other year. I know we always say that, with any grant, it's in jeopardy. But as you all witnessed over the summer, we really lost Indiana Kids completely. And then at the last minute, was able to save on just a thread. And I mean, it's not a ton of money. We were able to roll over the money that wasn't spent the last program year due to COVID hindering a lot of our progress. So we got lucky and was able to secure the funding for at least one more year at a much lower level. But our job's not done. So we are working very effortlessly behind the scenes as a board to figure out how to do a better job at storytelling, how to get the impact of the program across. And we can do what we can do with our numbers, but you guys are really the ones frontlining doing it. So I beg you, if I will, do social media. Let's, if you have a legislator asking, because not to get too political here, but the Democrats have wrote a letter to the House saying, hey, we support this, what Indiana Kids is important. So allow those legislators in your area to be able to go to your Facebook page and see the impact of the programming that we are doing. And the only way they're going to do that is if you share that on social media. Tag us in it, tag our funder, Serve Indiana, let's whatever, those couple months, we made our voices loud and clear. They heard us loud and clear. And it was nice. Our legislator got a tap on the shoulder saying, hey, they hear you. You guys are going to be able to secure some more funding due to being heard. So keep on keeping on and make sure that you do your part and storytell on social media as much as you can. Advocating for the program, like I just said, use your highlights, tag on social media, data, right? We worked with our third-party evaluator this year on all of our programs, and my big request was, how do we storytell? We do data a lot. We have a lot of data. That's what we do. But it's so much more than the data. It's the impact. It's that one-on-one. It's that life-changing experience that so many of us see that we just don't share. We don't tell. So how can we continue to do that? Lastly, there are tons of resources available for you guys. And I think, again, those are often forgotten about because who can remember that awfully long Dropbox link to go to? So again, be patient. We're trying to get all of this on our website now for an easier platform to access. But remember that Indiana Kids, of course, has a Dropbox with all the forms. But in addition, we have a Dropbox folder that is linked to on your screen, and I will send it out in a follow-up email with all these other resources. So if you look at the, I'm assuming would be the right side of your screen, there's an arts and crafts folder, a Boolean folder, careers, education, STEM, mental health, Legos, MessSmart, Operation Prevention. There are so many resources that we will purchase or find and upload into one common area for all clubs to use. And I think that is often forgotten about. So if you have not, or if you are having, part-time staff or AmeriCorps members or what have you, help you planning programming or printing off power pages that are related to certain grade levels, have them start on our Dropbox. There are some great resources where everything's free there for you, already labeled and ready to go. And then lastly, we have our new Indiana Kids Knowledge Bank link, if you will. Thanks to Amy from Evansville for planting the seed and helping make it become a reality. But now there is a link on Google Drive where people can go on and find ideas for career sessions or volunteer sessions or share that best practices with other clubs. So that's really helpful because a lot of times we'll have a club, a new staff come on and they'll email me and say, hey, what are good resources for this? And so I always, will connect you to a club similar in size to kind of get ideas or what have you. But it's nice to now have an online resource that clubs contribute to, because it's not just me saying, well, here's how other clubs are doing it, or here's what I think would work. It's actually input from those actually doing the program. So I will make sure that everybody has those links as well prior to ending this conversation. Does anybody have any questions, anything they would like to be clarified? I can walk through the billing system if that is what is needed. I just want to be, like I said, I want to be aware of your guys' time and give you clarification for anything that you might have questions on or need advice or what have you. So I am here. That is all I have for walking through each of the billing components. Like I said, I can stay on the line. I can go through the billing system. I just want to hear from you guys and see what your needs are since we are now past the noon hour. Does anybody have any questions? Who do we send tests to? You can still send them to me. You might start receiving emails from Erica from time to time. We've been slowly transitioning her in to help with some of our data entry, but you know, and then everything got weird. So like I said, we didn't want to throw a new person in the mix and ask you guys to remember to do X, Y, or Z. So you can still send it to me and I will channel them to Erica. But don't be surprised if you do see an email from Erica from our organization. I'm glad that many of you, I see some information coming in the chat box. I'm really glad that many of you found this to be helpful. I am more than happy to tune in like just live to your program during like a staff meeting if you need to walk through certain components. I'm here and available. I don't get the pleasure of driving to see all of you anymore. So my schedule allows me to do a lot in one day. So if you guys need me to tune in and walk through with you specifically how to do billing, or if you have offline questions that you would just feel comfortable, you know, with me, I am more than happy to be here as a resource for you guys, because I always say that, you know, the Indiana Kids program is a really good way to wrap up what you are doing within your club-wide, and allow you to receive some money for that effort to put back into the club. So I want to make sure that you guys are successful in what you're doing. And I'm definitely here as that resource. Why are there 2 homework sessions listed for session 28 on the homework log? Because I will fix that right now. Well, as soon as I get off the phone, I will fix that. I did not realize that was an issue. Like what the confusion is, and I don't know if everybody can see the questions, wanting to clarify that we can now count homework sessions done during the school day hours. I think on the last call, Lana said that it could not be done, and I think where we were going with that is the sense that if it's considered double dipping if you are not careful with it. But like I said earlier, it's kind of like a fall break, right? If your school did not have classes planned on Thursday and Friday, they were only teaching Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and they have nothing planned on Thursday and Friday. Therefore, it's just a lot like fall break, where they tunnel into the club and you house them all day. That can count towards Indiana Kids and homework sessions. However, I'm trying to pick on somebody that, I don't know if Portage is on the call. I think Portage is doing like virtual learning all day, but it's live instruction. They are just there to support or enhance the education that teachers are giving. You would not count that as an Indiana Kids session. But like I said, if it's a day where kids are not supposed to be in school, they are not attending school, it is an off day at the school, and you are housing them all day, that should count as a homework session. Good morning. Now it's starting to get cold outside, and the kids have to get volunteer hours done outside and inside the club. So remember, when I say outside of the club, that does not physically mean you have to leave the club. That means that you are sitting in the homeroom writing thank you cards to soldiers, or writing another club, maybe the club from Harrison County is going to write the club in Huntington County, and you guys are going to have pen pals. If that's something you're interested in, reach out. I can put you in, I can team you up with another club. That would be a volunteer outside the club, in the sense that it's not just learning how to volunteer within the club. It's not working the snack shack for 10 hours. It's not helping the younger kids read. It is actually finding ways to volunteer and give back outside of the club community. You know, good, yeah, you could like go walk around the neighborhood and clean up trash. That's a great outside activity as well, where it actually takes you outside, but not all of them. When I say outside, don't get hung up thinking, how do we leave the club? Because, you know, right now I know a lot of people aren't taking field trips and things like that. Okay, that helps clear up your clarification. During school hours, but the kids are not scheduled for in-person learning on certain days. Yeah, right, because it's, I don't know if I'm talking to Nicole or Ruben right now, but let's talk offline, because I think what I hear you saying, I think you're fine with. Okay, any other questions? I really appreciate, and I know I said it earlier, I really appreciate the effort that you are all putting in right now, because things are so not normal, and one day we're virtual and one day we're not, and just understanding those lines and understanding how to navigate that can be quite the challenge. So I understand that each of you have your own challenges in getting the program to run efficiently and effective like it has in the past, but continue to be creative and continue to ask those clarifying questions and continue to find a way to make it work. All right, guys, if nobody else has any questions, I will not keep you any longer. I appreciate each of your time, and reach out, like I said, if you have any needs personally or within the club, any questions, what have you, reach out to me and I will be happy to get together one-on-one and have a more in-depth conversation. All right, guys, have a good day.
I'll wait.
Thank you, and you too.